Hello, this is Sherry Gallagher with Technacon Company Incorporated. This presentation is on ISO 9001-2015, Section 8.3, Design and Development of Products and Services. In ISO 9001-2015, Design and Development is part of the section on operations. Design and Development is the only section an organization can determine is excluded. All other sections that do not apply to the organization, such as service or installation, are considered not applicable. Since an organization can exclude design, we created a video for that section alone, and the rest of Section 8 will be done in a separate video presentation. In general, if an auditor is trying to decide if design should be excluded or included, the auditor will look at who has approval of the design documents. If a product or service can only be changed with the approval of the customer, the organization is not design responsible and can exclude Section 8.3. If the organization has control of the design and can make changes at will without customer approval, then the organization is design responsible. Some clients have been concerned, since they are responsible for designing the manufacturing process, that makes them design responsible. Responsibility for the process design is addressed in Section 8.1, Operational Planning and Control. This is different from design of the product and is not part of the Section 8.3, Design and Development of Product and Services. When does the design process begin? Frequently, sales and marketing, and in some organizations, the design engineers will develop concepts for new products or services. A large number of these concepts will be discarded as not viable. These discarded concepts are not part of the design process. If the concept comes from or are discussed with customers, they fall under 8.2.1, Customer Communication. Only when the concept has defined requirements does it become part of Section 8.3, Design and Development of Products and Services. There must be a clear understanding of what the product is expected to do for the customer, for the design process stages to be developed and the design controls to be implemented. Requirements can be added, removed, or modified as the design goes forward. The changes need to be documented at the appropriate level of development. Planning the design and development. The first step is to define the design activities and who will be involved in them. The design process varies widely depending on the complexity of the product, the similarity of products to currently products in production, and regulatory requirements. For example, if a plastic injection molder is currently manufacturing a green trash can, and a customer wants the exact same trash can except in blue, the project will not be as complex as designing a new model of a car. An important element of planning the design and development of a new product is who has the authority to accept changes, additions, or deletions to the requirements. Is the design for a customer? In the case of the trash can, the customer would be the logical entity to determine if the requirements have been met. In the case of the new model car, sales and marketing may have the final approval. Who will be responsible for the project and address issues of interface between the project members? Typically, this is the person titled Project Manager, and calls for the design this person calls for the design reviews and follows up on promised delivery dates. At what point in the design will the design reviews and who will participate in them? Manufacturing and quality should provide information as to similar processes and issues. If processes are being outsourced, the outsourced provider should be included to prevent issues increasing cost or lead times. It is also important to understand downstream applications. For example, if a fastener currently comes in two parts, and the proposal is to 3D print it as a single part, will it still work in the application? All of this planning and subsequent records of activities are documented information. Documented information was covered in the video on ISO 9001-2015 Section 7, Support. Remember, documented information comes in many forms, including videos. Now we get to the design and development inputs. This is how the organization answers the question, are we there yet? What are the functional and performance requirements? If a sports car is the new product, it better get from 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than a minute. Where have we had problems in similar designs? This information is derived from previous designs and activities. I worked for a company making a clamp. At the design review, I brought up the current equipment did not hold the tolerances for the location of a hole, creating a high scrap rate. Unless we wanted a similar issue, we would need to consider the process capability of the equipment and/or replace or repair the equipment or increase the price to cover the higher scrap rate. What are the statutory and regulatory requirements? When making antibiotic tablets, there's an industry standard for the allowable variation in active ingredients. What are the standards the organization has committed to implementing? If the company has a goal to reduce scrap by a certain percentage, will this product help or hurt achieving that goal? If the company has a goal to eliminate a toxic component, can it be done and still achieve the required performance? If the product doesn't work, what is the risk? Here is an effective point to perform a failure mode and effect analysis, an FMEA. The FMEA is an input before the design process starts. The FMEA should be reviewed at each design review to see if the current ratings are still valid and if additional risks should be considered. Inputs should be clear and unambiguous. We should know what we're looking for before we start the design process. The easiest way to accomplish that goal is to make sure that the inputs are measurable and define the method of measurement. Now let's talk about design and development controls. Design and development controls are also known as design reviews. The design review makes sure the project is meeting the delivery and performance goals. These goals come from the design inputs and measurements of the new design against performance requirements, and it's done as appropriate at the developmental stages. The verification and validation activities should be reported. If a problem or a risk has been addressed, the actions to address the risk or problem must be identified and documented. Design reviews must have a record and are part of documented information. That takes us to design and development outputs. This is a very straightforward concept. Did the resulting product meet the requirements defined in the inputs? Did you know bubble wrap was designed to be wallpaper? It failed miserably as wallpaper, but is perfect for protecting fragile items. Did you know Teflon was originally designed to be a refrigerant? It didn't work so well for that, but what they did find out was that it would protect metal from fluorine gas. Large quantities of fluorine gas were needed during the atomic project in World War II. What they found was fluorine would eat through the valves of the tanks, and the tanks would fly around the storage areas. It was very dangerous to go and try and retrieve a tank of fluorine gas. But by coating the valves with Teflon, the fluorine couldn't get to the brass valve, and it was now safe to store it. Of course, after World War II, the military had to dispose of the excess Teflon, and some of it had been left in the sun where it polymerized. And what they did find was it turned into a low-friction surface. So yes, some neat things have been invented by accident. But the idea of the design and development of products and services process in ISO 9001 is to come up with a product that meets the end requirements that we defined as inputs. Again, the performance of the product against the design requirements is documented information. Now that leads us to design and development changes, which was mentioned earlier. Designs can be changed during the development process. It is a requirement of ISO 9001-2015 that those changes, who authorized them, the results of the design reviews, and the actions taken to prevent adverse impacts, think risks nonconformances, are documented. It is acceptable to make changes. It happens in most design processes. They must be documented, and you must think about adverse impacts to how you fix or make a change. So in conclusion, if the organization can make a change to a design without a customer approval, the organization is design responsible. If they need the customer approval, then they can exclude design. The design process begins and ends with the requirements. Until then, it's not part of the design. If you have some questions, you can email me at technacon1986@sbcglobal.net, or call me on my cell phone, or you can check us out at technacon.com. Go out, have a great day, and look up the next video presentation we're putting together on the rest of the operations, which is Section 8 of ISO 9001-2015.